Hello and welcome again to another episode of Inuka Africa. Today, I've got Louis Taderera, my guest. I'll give his brief bio, but today we're discussing the origins and identity of the Bantu people of sub-Saharan Africa and their culture and identity. Welcome, Louis. If I can briefly give a background of Louis. Louis likes to call himself a student who is relearning everything African. And that includes his own family story. He studied biology and qualified as a medical technologist. Then general human settlement planning. He has worked in the public service and has been a part-time lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe and the University of the Witwatersrand in planning and land development. Currently, Louis is semi-retired, but is consulting for the Valuer General of South Africa on land claims and compensation since 2021. Welcome and hello, Louis.
Hello and welcome to your viewers. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Africa. What groups make up Africa before we hone in on the Bantu group?
Okay. Well, I'm hesitant to answer that in the sense that when we say what groups make up Africa, we are now looking from the European anthropological understanding of people. But what I would rather do is to actually say, what do we mean when we say Bantu or Vanu? I think this is where the key lies. We called ourselves Vanu or Bantu, and of course we say Bantu. Now, I want to be very clear. Whatever I say, it doesn't mean it's gospel truth. What it basically means and what I'm asking people is to research for themselves. But this is my understanding. They say that there is writings in the pyramids where the word Bantu actually is found. And the Ba means the spirit. And it is actually identified as a bird flying over the mummy of a person. So their understanding is that Bantu means basically we are spirits in animal bodies to experience this physical world as we see it through our senses. Now, I know when we were growing up, we could never understand when people called us Bantus because we were saying, but Bantu is Vanu, which means people. So when you say Bantu people, what are you saying? You are saying people.
Yes.
Now, so everybody.
Carry on, Louis.
So what we are now almost confusing because from, let's say, the African point of view, Bantu basically means human beings. Yes.
Now, what you've just said is interesting. If I can just interrupt you briefly, sorry about that, Louis. You've mentioned something.
No, go ahead.
You've mentioned something interesting in terms of the origin of Bantu. And it's good that you encourage
Mhm.
people to do some research as well, because I don't know if you've heard of another version that says the original ancestor was someone called Ndu. Have you heard of that version?
Yes, I've heard of that version. Yes.
And what do you think of it? What do you think of it?
Okay. If you think about it, now I may have, just for clarity, I may have to bring in what the Europeans, when they look at languages, they call classifiers. I remember my mother tongue is Shona. And when we were learning Shona, we were learning how to identify things. There were different classifiers or prefixes where one would say a single thing is known as this, and its plural is that. Now, in Shona, you'd say munu, and the plural is vanu.
Yes.
So what am I really leading to? It seems Ndu is an identity, which basically means things. Everything you see in existence is a thing. In Shona, you'd say chinu, nu.
Hmm.
So my understanding basically, then two simply means everything that we see in existence. Then the classifier or the prefix, when you say vanu or vantu, then you are giving it the soul. You are differentiating it from artifacts to living or living things, things that have life in them.
Yes.
I don't know if that is clear.
Yes, it's
That's
very
my
clear.
understanding.
It's very clear. So the breaking down of Africans into Cushitic, Afro-Asiatic, Niger, Congo, Khoisan, Berber, Nilo-Saharan, you're saying that's something foreign to Africa?
Well, I would say it is foreign, but people can choose how they want to identify anybody. What is very clear is this, that we tended to identify ourselves either by geographical location or the language you speak.
Okay.
Now, if you say to me Nilo Litic or Nilo, people of the Nile, we are really saying people of the Nile Valley.
Yes, yes.
And it's interesting that you have brought that out, because one of my behaviors these days, when I'm traveling in South Africa, Swaziland, Zambia, Namibia, Zimbabwe, you remember way back, the European anthropologists wanted to describe different people based on their features.
Yes.
I'm prepared to challenge anybody who comes to Southern Africa and say, tell me a nose shape that you will not find in Africa or in Southern Africa. Tell me a facial feature that you will not find in Southern Africa. Whether you want to say people have got thick lips or thin lips, broad nose or narrow noses,
we've got all
high
across the board.
cheekbones. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it becomes problematic to me. I don't mind discussing it, but based on evidence.
Yes.
Remember, Africans are very evidence-based people.
Yes.
If you can show me something, yes, I can understand the distribution and the dominance. That I understand well. So if you say Nilotic, I will say you're simply describing people who are found along the Nile Valley.
Okay. Okay.
That's what.
Now, Now, the Bantu people, you link them to, you say there's the word possibly exists or it does exist in one of the pyramids. Now,
Yes.
where would you say is the origin of the first people in Africa? Where did they start off from?
All right. Now it's a question of whether one recognizes oral history as authentic or not. We have the Sawa or Vasarwa. Some people call them Vatwa. Some people have used words like pygmies. Some have said the Sun people. Basically, these are, to me, in my understanding, they are the original people. In other words, the first people.
And
Why
you're not just
do I
talking in
say
Africa
that?
here, you're talking in the
Well,
on planet
let's
Earth.
put it this way. We've all been told that humans, or rather in terms of fossils that have been human fossils that have been identified, the known fossils right now, the oldest, have been only found in Africa, in Ethiopia and in South Africa.
Yes.
So as far as what we know now, maybe we may find some other in the future, but what we know now, we can say evidence makes us accept the position or the fact that humans originated in Africa. Or let's put it, the oldest known fossils of human beings were found in Africa or exist in Africa.
Now, you mentioned...
And they say it's more than 300,000 years ago.
Yeah. You mentioned Ethiopia and South Africa.
Yes.
As the places where the oldest fossils have been found. Now, what does that say about the narrative that the Bantu people are originally from West Central Africa? And what does that say about their migrating, moving southwards? Because does that say anything? Because surely if they're from there, some fossils should have been found where they say they are originally from as well, the oldest fossils.
Okay. Maybe let's put it this way. Sometimes there may be no real answers to some questions, but it's more of an understanding. If we say at present what we know based on evidence, it shows us Northeast Africa and Southern Africa. That is what is known. Maybe let me just bring something here. I think it's an African concept or understanding that knowledge has got layers. No one knows everything as an absolute or pure knowledge. It comes in layers. So whenever one is investigating, you can only bring out that which you have established.
Yes.
My point is this: for the time being, that's what we know. We may talk of West Africa, but then there's another understanding also, which says people moved from East Africa to West Africa.
Okay.
They would move back and forth.
Yes.
At the same time, there's also the understanding that in Africa, people moved from Central and went north. Some moved from Central and moved south. But it's a question of what time in history are you looking at?
Yes.
You get what I'm leading to?
Yes, yes. I get you now. So that would dispel, because when you read the migration narrative in general, it's as if the Bantu people came from West Central Africa and moved east and south. And there's a narrative that they didn't go up north to countries like Egypt and to the north of Africa.
Egypt.
Yeah. So,
but guess what?
Yes.
The Egyptians themselves have written to say they came from the bottom or the foot of the mountains of the moon.
Meaning?
That's what they have said. Now, when we look for the foot or the bottom or the base of the mountains, we are now led to Wenzori area, which is Uganda, Congo, which is actually leading us to the Great Lake areas.
Yes.
This is the area in Africa, in Central Africa, where you find the highest mountains that were a result of glacier activity, and they still have snow or ice at their top. And the Egyptians say they came from there. Now, those of us from the southern part of Africa, our oral history says we came from Uruswa.
Yes.
The land of big grass, the land of reeds. Again, where is it leading us to? To the Great Lake area.
It's the same region.
But exactly. But the Egyptians themselves, if one recalls their own history, they talk of base. Base as a small person whom the Europeans called the pygmy, but we prefer to call them the what? Vatwa.
Abattoir.
And yes, and almost every king in Egypt adored or revered the short people. I know when I was growing up, we were told our mothers come from the Vatwa or Vasiri. And you can ask anybody. I've met people from Swaziland.
Yes.
And they said, yes, they grew up being told that.
And what do they call them in Swaziland?
They were told Vatwa.
It's same thing, abattoir.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not a linguist, so my words may not, but if you look at the root, you find the twa in it.
Yes. Now, that brings us to the story of migration. Then it seems to put the one-sided story of migration of starting from West Central Africa and moving southwards to rest, isn't it? It kind of puts holes in that story, I would say.
I definitely would say so too, because now, remember, in Southern Africa, especially in Mpumalanga, they talk of the Vakoni people.
Yes.
And I can tell everybody now, just Google. Get on the Google map, look for a town called Machado Dop in Mpumalanga. And just zoom in up and down within the areas around it, and you will see secular structures.
Yes.
Which indicate settlements. And they date them back more than 10,000 years ago.
Well before the migration, the so-called migration.
Exactly, thank you. So if we as Africans are going to talk to talk in terms of migration, we need to be clear. What do we mean by migration? Does it mean people just move from one point went to the other and settled, or they were going up and down? If
Very
somebody
interesting.
is going up and down, is that migration?
That's not migration. That's not migration. And I like what you said, Louis, that people should not take this discussion or whatever you say as gospel truth, that they must do further research for themselves. And you mentioned this town in Mpumalanga, and
Mpumalanga.
I'm sure it's one spelled Machadorp, or
That's
D-O,
correct.
yeah, D-O-D-O-R-P.
Machado Dop.
Yes, yes.
D-O-R-P. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Or
No,
if you want, they just call Bakoni, Bakoni ruins.
interesting, interesting.
They'll pick
Yeah,
up literature on that.
wonderful, wonderful. Yeah,
And
so
if I may just bring, if I may just bring something, because people
yes.
can end up getting very confused.
Mm.
You see, the people who now own lands where these settlements dominate are of European origin.
Yes.
And they've now written a lot of stories about the Anunnaki, gold mining,
Mm-hmm.
and you realize they're doing the same thing that they did about Prester Jones, the gold found in Southern Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and people searching for gold.
Yes.
And you say, wait a minute, what is this? It's their view of the African world. It may not necessarily be our view of it.
But these structures, are they protected though? Are they like heritage?
I believe only one is protected. They call it Adam's calendar. But in Zulu, unfortunately, I regret, but I wish my Zulu was also good. I think that you might know better. Inzalo Ilanga,
Inzalo
Ilanga, or
Elanga, yes,
something like
yes.
that.
Inzalo Elanga, yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And it's
Okay.
claimed that it's actually lined with the Great Zimbabwe, and it's
Yes.
also lined with the Great Pyramids of Giza. They lie on the same line.
When you say line, is that the longitude? Same longitude?
Which
or...
one goes from north to south? That's the longitude, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
We better be clear, otherwise we'll
Latitude
confuse
goes,
people.
it goes across, right?
Along the equator.
Yeah, so
yes,
yeah,
yes.
it's same as the equator and all. Now we've kind of covered the migration, the origins and migration bit of the Bantu. I don't know whether I would want to say anything about Guru Uskwa, because I know Guru Uskwa, when you talk about Guru, is that the original name? Because I've also read that it's mythical, a mythical area. I don't know if you've heard about that and what you'd like to say about that.
Okay. Well, let's take the word itself. It simply means a place of very tall or thick or big grass, isn't it? Maybe let's leave it at that definition. It must speak for them itself, because most of the African languages are very descriptive. You describe what you see.
Yeah.
You don't put it into a concept unless you want to retain in people's memory so that they don't forget. That's when you now conceptualize it in the form of either a parable or a story that sounds as if it's not real, but the theme in it will definitely be real.
Yeah. So now, in terms of speaking about African identity, given this background that we've just gone through, what's your understanding regarding the identity of Africans? Are there any similarities, or what's common among all these people that are called Africans?
All right. I don't know if you have heard of the Dendera zodiac. which was found in Abydos in one of the temples where it shows the zodiac or the stars.
Yeah.
And you
Sorry, Louis. When you talk, maybe if you
Go ahead.
if you could give detail so that if any of our viewers want to do further research, they'll know, they'll have a reference point of some sort.
Okay, to me, the reference itself is the Dendera Zodiac, Dendera Zodiac, which is Zodiac.
Yeah.
It was found in a temple. I think now it lies somewhere in France, in some museum. It has pictures, or it depicts time. It depicts the stars, the positioning of the stars. But what is very clear in it, you find that they depicted human bodies with animal heads. So you see the lion, you see the hippopotamus, you see the birds, almost certain animals that are found in Africa, but they've got human bodies.
Yes. Now, the Dendera Zodiac is from Africa, you're saying, is originally from Africa.
It's from Africa. It's from Africa. So when you look at that and you now follow our understanding of totems, what the European anthropologists called totems.
Yes.
You realize that somewhere along the way, it seems, because we read from nature, knowledge is derived from that which is natural around us.
Yes.
It's almost like we got our identity. By identity now, say, for example, you are Chuma, right? They are either places or animals that you consider to be, I'm hesitant to use the word sacred, but it's the most, or rather equivalent that we can come up with.
Yes.
There will be places or animals that you'll be told you cannot eat, you cannot kill.
Yes.
You must at least recognize them and respect them, not worship.
Yes.
You kind of revere them. Okay. Now,
it's good that you say not for
African,
worship. It's good that you say not for worship, because this dispels another myth and narrative that has been planted in Africans' mind.
Yes.
Yeah, but carry on, Louis.
So,
I just said to make that point.
Because we're talking of identities, you would identify yourself according to that system, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now, what does it actually mean? My understanding is this. If you pick your totem, there are certain characteristics or behaviors, or what humans may call talents about that totem. And that's what the African wanted to emulate. Remember, we said we are spirits in what?
In animal
bodies.
Bodies, yes.
Yes. Me as a biologist, I totally understand that. If you say spirit is life and the animal is a living thing, that which drives or makes the animal be able to move and do what it does is the spirit.
Spirit, yes.
So we were emulating that. I am a lion, right? It means somewhere along the way, my bloodline viewed lions and saw their behavior. The women are called Masivanda.
Yes.
And if you realize Banda, Masivanda,
Mm.
Sivanda, if you go to areas like Botswana, it becomes Tau.
Yes.
If you go to Swaziland, it becomes Ndau.
Mhm.
They're the same people.
Yes, yes. So those are the
You're
similarities.
identifying them.
Yeah.
As an example, those are the similarities. If you take people who are related to the river entity,
Yes.
there will be crocodile, Lakwena,
Uh-huh.
isn't it?
There's
Ngwena,
there's also
Ziva,
Masiziba,
Siziva. You see, to
Msikavanu.
me,
Msikavanu is the same.
exactly. So
Yeah.
to me, when you talk of identity,
Mm.
we were not talking of skin color.
Mm.
We were talking of the characteristics of a particular bloodline. And you find that people who have a certain totem are said, no, to be very good at this and that and that. Almost each one, it almost gives me the impression of the biblical tribes,
Yes.
where you say, some would say the Kohen or the Levites belong to the priesthood. Some belong to the judges.
Now, in terms of identity, this is very interesting because as Africans, we may speak different languages, but find that we share the same totem. What do you think that kind of points to? Because it's interesting in the perspective of identity, isn't it?
Yes, but then at the end of the day, what is an identity?
Mm.
It means that which, you see, you don't give yourself an identity.
Mm.
Other people give you what they see you as, isn't it?
Yeah.
You see, so it means the label came as a result of that which the people around us saw in us, which basically leads us to the issue of talent.
Mm.
What are the Siziva people known for? That is their identity, which means language is not necessarily an identity. Because I could have been born in Zambia and speak Bemba. I could have been born in Kenya and speak Swahili. I could have been born in Nigeria, Igbo land, and speak Igbo, isn't it? Or Fulani, or whatever other language. So does that really give me my identity?
That's very powerful. Language is not identity.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
But
So
talent,
yes.
that which you are known for,
Mm.
is your identity, because that is the gift you were given to show or to exhibit in this world as your contribution to whatever community you find yourself in.
Yes.
Just to emphasize that, you know, I've had experiences where I get very angry with, say, let's say the Europeans who have called themselves Afrikaner, or any European who has called himself or herself white. And I say, tell me something. What did I do to have the color that you see me as? No one can answer that. They can only say nothing. Then I say, what did you do to have the color that we now say you are white? They say nothing. So I say, but that means whatever it is you say or see in me, it's not an achievement. But if you're a mechanic or a pilot or a blacksmith or an inventor of something, that is an achievement.
Yes.
I'm just trying to show that, you know, some of these things, we just take them face value and we think that is the identity, that is the truth about someone.
Yes. Now, you take me, for instance,
Mhm.
last time I discussed what chuma means with you. And you
Yes.
take someone, let's say in Europe, Goldsmith,
Mm.
called Goldsmith.
Mhm. Yes.
Would you
Yes.
say we share the same identity?
Well, now let's put it this way. When it comes to talent, if chuma implies that somebody somewhere, your ancestry,
Mhm.
they were good at manipulating gold,
Mm.
or if you're a silversmith, manipulating silver, or if you were a blacksmith, let's put it that way for lack of a better word, you know how to work with iron.
Yes.
We know that there are people who were specialists in iron, right? Manipulating iron. Now, from my point of view, I would say, okay, Chuma and Goldsmith, they have the same talent,
Mm.
isn't it?
Yes.
Therefore, as far as I'm concerned, from a human point of view,
Mm.
if talent is what identifies you,
Mm.
yeah, I would say yes. Maybe the general talk would be, you're from different mothers. You're
Okay, yes.
brothers, but from different mothers or different fathers. It simply means, yes, there is something very common about the two of you.
So in African identity, totems are important.
Definitely. I
And
would say, as a biologist, they are genetic markers. It shows your genetic pool.
yes, and how does this speak then to some beliefs that come in and say, no, totems are not, they identify with something that's not spiritually clean? Or, you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure you've heard those kind of
Yes.
narratives.
Okay. Maybe this is the beauty of African thought.
Mm.
We believe that there is linear thinking
Mhm.
and multidimensional or
Yes.
spiral thinking.
Mm.
Now, these are phenomena that make up the human behavior, right? Now, if you and I were to ask ourselves, who are the people who said these things were what you just described?
Mm.
It wasn't those who believed in it,
Yes.
right?
Mm.
It wasn't them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And there was a motive behind it.
You see, and actually, yeah. And if I ask you belief,
Mm.
translate it to any African language, the chances are, and I'm saying to the audience, you find out, the chances are belief, when you translate it literally, it means that which you accept. In Shona, chitendero, kutenda,
Mm.
is to actually receive and accept,
Yes.
isn't it?
Mm.
Now, but from the English point of view, when you look for the word belief, you find that it now goes to the issue of the absence of what? Knowledge.
Mm. Mm.
It's something you accept without questioning, without knowing.
Mm.
You just take it and say, I believe, that's it.
That's it.
Which
Yeah.
means you really don't know. So already I'm hesitant to use the word belief when we talk of African worldview,
Yes.
because the African will say, no, yes, I accept.
Mm-hmm.
But normally you don't accept. If you are a Chuma, I can't say to you, you must be a Shumba. Can I?
No, you can't. You can't.
I can't come to your family and say, no, stop doing this, you must now do that in this manner.
Yes.
No.
Kind of,
It's unheard of.
It's kind of saying what would call usendo, right? Trying to impose
Yes,
an
exactly.
alien or alien practices from another usendo to yours, right?
Actually, I would go worse and say, in African thinking, what you are doing, you are bringing in an external spirit into somebody.
Mm.
We can debate what we understand or mean by spirit, but remember, we are all not very clear what we mean by information.
Yes.
What is information?
Mm.
You see, you hear things, right?
Mm.
That is information. When you accept that and you say, I believe in this, will I be wrong to say that you have taken another spirit into you?
Wow. Wow. That's deep.
Let me put it another way. Put it another way.
Yeah.
We are talking right now, isn't it?
Yes.
You are, I don't know how many thousands of kilometers or miles away.
Mm.
Our thoughts and our voices, how are they being transmitted between us right now?
We know
radio waves.
Yeah, exactly. Airwaves, radio waves, airwaves, yeah. And
you realize they could also be transmitted chemically.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
We know there are things that are transmitted. Information can be transmitted chemically.
Mm.
It can be transmitted electronically. It can be transmitted as a wave, whatever, whether it's radio waves or magnetic waves, whatever you want.
Mm.
But it doesn't change the fact that it's information.
Yes.
So would I be wrong to say maybe information is spirit?
It can materially alter who you are. I think in that sense, therefore it's spirit, right?
You have put it correctly to me, from my point of view. The viewers may see it differently, but definitely I was just trying to show the principle.
Yes.
That as human beings at the moment, there are certain things we don't fully understand.
Yes.
And know.
Yes.
And we're in the process of finding out. I think that's what the old Africans meant when they said that we as human beings, we are constantly becoming.
Meaning evolving.
What you were yesterday, yes. I know. I wouldn't even say evolving. We're just creating more and more layers
of knowledge.
You remember the spiral and the linear at the same time?
Yes.
They're just layers of understanding.
So
if you take it further, yeah, go ahead.
So when you say becoming, it's almost like we're reaching different levels of revelation as we move along.
You have put it correctly. Yes, we are becoming aware
of
our realities as we move along. We are constantly learning.
That's interesting.
We're constantly getting more information.
Yeah. Given what you've said, I'm an African, pre-colonial African. I've got my layers of knowledge, or as you initially put it, and come the people from Europe into Africa, whether missionaries or whoever. They come to me, they say, no, what you are is not good. Here is a new way that will free you up. Given what you've said, that kills your identity, I believe.
Mhm.
Am I correct in saying that?
Nope, it doesn't.
It doesn't.
It's a
If you
the
accept it, if you
question is,
accept it,
yes, the question is, how do you accept it and how
Yes.
do you interpret it?
yes,
You see,
Mm.
you may be able to say, oh, okay, you're giving me a new thought, but maybe let me look at it clearly. What you're saying is the same thing that we are practicing.
yes,
And actually, a lot of things, if you start looking at them, you realize, wait a minute, they've decided to call it that, and we've decided to call it this. We just differ in viewpoint. But while at that, let me bring something that to me is really, really African. We say there is a greater spirit which we are incapable of knowing and incapable of understanding.
Is that the originator, what you'd refer to, umvelingani?
And unknown.
Is that the equivalent
and
umvelingani?
unknowable.
The
Yeah,
originator.
you already know.
Yeah.
As long as I describe it, you will actually know where I'm leading to.
Yeah.
The unknowable.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And we accept that.
Yeah.
It goes back to what I was saying. We are evidence-based people. And there's nothing wrong in accepting that you don't know something, because then it creates that inquisitive mind. You see? And that's the process of what becoming. The more you ask, you start to gather more information about it. So given that, go ahead.
In the process of becoming, then, I think it's a necessary process from what you're saying if we are to receive any further knowledge, and we must not be scared of questioning whatever is put in front of us. Would you encourage that kind of approach?
Yes. Exactly. Now, that's leading to the point. You said somebody came from outside and said what you're doing is what? Is wrong, or it's evil, or whatever. We didn't question that.
Yeah.
We didn't, did we? Or there's no recorded history or oral history where they said we questioned.
There's evidence that we didn't question but accepted it. Evidence is there nowadays.
Exactly. Exactly. And guess what? We are now questioning it.
Yes.
But it seems there was a reason. I have a feeling the reason was for our survival. Because the first reaction was to block outsiders. But if they were fighting us and they were beating us, you have no alternative but to say, all right, yeah, we'll accept. Because you need to survive, isn't it?
Yes.
If you continue resisting, you get eliminated.
Yes.
So it's a question of a power game.
Yeah. This leads me to
But
the
now,
next. Yeah. Sorry. Finish your
Yes.
point, Louis. Finish your point.
No. Go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
This leads me to the next question in terms of your identity. Obviously, we've touched on totems leading to talents, leading to you pointing out that if you accept certain things without questioning them, there's the potential of materially altering or changing who you are, and possibly changing your identity completely because of that spirit being in us.
Yeah.
Now, along the same lines of thinking, would you be able to mention how we relate to, as Africans, to, or even historically, to our ancestors, and what that means to our identity?
Okay. Like I said, I'm still a student of these things.
Yes, yes.
But I think I can, with confidence, say this. you didn't, okay, I didn't birth myself. I came
Mm.
from my mother,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
And I came from my mother as a product of the union between my mother and my father.
Mm.
And we can link the dots going back
Mm.
thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Okay. So if that is, and it is a fact, we can talk of it as genetics. And we say genetic information, genetic coding. It means in me, I have the same elements as those that sat in my mother's gene pool and those that sat in my father's gene pool. The question is, when you look at the balancing factor, some may dominate the other, isn't it?
Yes.
Just like your mother may have been a lighter skinned person, your father a darker skinned person. You then meet somebody who is lighter skinned. It's now a question of what is dominating. That is what will be seen as phenotype. But you hold the potential of both.
Yes.
So the question is this: how do people or a society facilitate its own perpetuation? You can choose different ways. You can say, no, no, no. This is my understanding to now come to your question. I am a product of my father and mother, who are a product of their father and mother, and I recognize that. So when I need guidance, as much as that guidance is coming from within me,
Yes.
I call upon my mother's heritage and my father's heritage, isn't it? To help me understand my current position or situation.
What
They've
will
had their experiences.
Yes. When you say calling on heritage, what exactly is the process there? And as we've been told, is it really evil?
Well, think about it. It's memory. You're calling back memory. You're calling back information.
And calling back
That's basically
information,
what you're doing.
I think even nowadays in terms of memory, right? Because scientifically it's been acknowledged that you can have generational trauma. So if you can have generational trauma, you can also call generational memory, if I can phrase it that way. I don't know if you've got a better term, if I understand you correctly, what you're saying.
No. Again, it's memory. It's information. It's just information from those who were before us. So if I go to the library and open a book written by a dead person,
Yes.
will you call it evil? Would you?
No, no, definitely not. And I wouldn't call I wouldn't call calling memory of my ancestors evil. But is it just memory, or something has also been given to us that it's worship, it's some form of worship when you do that? Do you agree with that kind of assertion?
Well, all I know, okay, again, if I don't give an answer, I'll give a question.
Yes.
What is the equivalent word to worship in Ndebele, Shona, Zulu, whatever African language you want to say?
I don't know whether
maybe let
the
me
word
explain it to you.
in Ndebele,
Let me explain.
Okay, carry on.
Worship. Okay, this is my understanding. We say kupira. Kupa is to give, right? If you have a problem or conflict with your father, you go to your mother or you go to your father's sister or you got your father's brother,
Mm.
or somebody whom you believe has a better relationship with your father, isn't it?
Yes.
And you tell them the problem or the issue, right? That is kupira. You present them with your problem,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Then they take it to who? To your father. That's basically what we do. It's a process by which you give your issues to those you are no longer directly in touch with. You follow genealogy. And I'm glad you asked that question. I have studied or at college where to do biblical tradition. And I realized, wait a minute, I think it's Matthew 1. It gives the genealogy of Jesus all the way.
Yes, yes, yes.
So what do you call that? When the African does the same thing, what do you call it?
Ancestral worship.
So, so if anyone who is listening wants to call it that, that's their choice. But we may be losing the full meaning and proper understanding of what we are doing because we're importing a concept which is not really ours. To me, it's not worshiping, it's gratitude and recognizing that, yay, I come from other people before me and I must recognize them.
It's a form of
given life
acknowledgement.
to me, or acknowledgement, probably the best. I think the Japanese have got it right. It's gratitude.
Yeah.
If I come to you and I present you with a present, am I worshiping you?
No, not really.
I'm simply showing you gratitude. I'm showing you gratitude that I appreciate what you have done to me.
Yeah.
That's how I see that whole process.
So now, from the reality that the African has experienced and what we've been discussing, it seems that the African's identity has been under attack in some way or other, and the African, as well as maybe for the sake of survival, as you say, has accepted. I don't know what you'd call Zinza in English. If they've got such.
I say Zinza is your gene pool.
They've accepted the identities of different gene pools, so to speak. And
of which they don't have original information.
Exactly.
It may not even be, if they've accepted other people's gene as if it's theirs.
Yes. Where does that leave the African if he has gone through that process of accepting other people's?
Then, to me, it means they are in an illusion. It's
not
like
grounded.
a hologram.
Not grounded.
It's not real. It does not come from within. It's a mirage. That means you're always catching up. It's like the rainbow. You see the rainbow depending on where the light is coming from and the rain's droplets and how the light is being reflected, but you can't go and touch it. You're following a phenomena which has nothing to do with you, but it's visual only to you.
And as you
are
mentioned,
saying, this is mine, this is me.
And as you mentioned, it also means the African has accepted something for which he does not have enough information of.
I think that is where the problem is. And it goes back to your point when you said somebody comes to you and says, hey, what you are doing is evil, is wrong. You do this.
Mm.
You see, remember, meaning is derived from context.
Yes.
Everything we are saying here, we are talking in terms of our own life experiences.
Absolutely.
Now,
Yeah.
somebody in Europe or somebody who came from Europe, they haven't experienced life the way we have experienced.
Mm.
So what is their reality?
So, in your view, if you can sum it up, I don't know if you've observed what's going on. What do you think are the challenges for the Africans' contemporary identity? What are the challenges there? And how we can
I think there
maintain
have been
cultural
some
and spiritual identity in the modern world?
there are people who have obviously are wiser than most of us, than the present day African. I always held the view that the old people who created the foundation from which we are now building, when you get into confusion, go back to the source. Go back to the source of your information and find out. If you don't do that, if I don't do that, I will not understand myself. I will not know myself. I will not know my brother. I will not know my sister. I will not know my father. I will not know my mother.
Now,
so I would say you have to go back to the source, search backwards.
Okay, how would you advise a young person when you say go back to the source? How would you advise them in terms of process?
Okay, all right. I'm going to give an example. I can count from 1 to 100. But if I want to go back to 1 and I'm at 100, I must go to 99, 98, 97, 96. Those are the steps. That's how it go. No, first start to ask more about your parents, about their parents. Try to understand their environment that they lived in.
Yes.
I lived through colonialism, right? I still believe I'm under colonialism, but because we sold this idea of independence, I would say 1980 came, I was a mature person, hopefully. I moved into a new era, which appeared to usher in a new world view. But the more I go back, I realize, wait a minute. Yes, we say independent, but a lot of the things are still are still colonial.
Yes.
So I have to go back to the colonial. Then I have to say, wait a minute, what was it like before colonization? Then I start to, that's now going back to the source. But I have to go, in stages. Now, some people say in Africa, we have lost a lot of our symbolism, a lot of the writings. You see, when you go and see the rock paintings by the old people, by the Twa,
Yes.
can you not say that's writing?
It is. It is. Yeah.
Because writing is symbols, isn't it?
Yes.
But we haven't tried to decode it the way they understood it. And we were told it's not writing, we're told it's painting.
Absolutely.
But painting delivers a message.
Yes.
So maybe we need to say, what is writing? What is painting from our point of view? What does it actually convey? And we keep moving, going backwards. Because now I didn't realize there was writing the way you and I would understand what writing is. There was writing before we learned of the Arabic alphabet.
Yes. So
and then
you would encourage
go ahead.
something similar to a genogram, isn't it?
Well, okay. I was lucky. I remember I had an uncle, my father's brother. The first gift he gave me, it was in 1967.
Mm.
He gave me a book
Mm.
of Egypt. And I think this is where really I started to try to find out. He gave me a book of Egypt. I can't read what they call hieroglyphics,
Mm-hmm.
but I've read a lot about them. And like you said earlier, nature.
Mm.
The first you'd say were pictures, isn't it? They
Yes.
say it's pictogram or
Yes.
it's pictures. Yeah, but guess what? How do you know a tree? If I write tree, Tree, would you have an idea what it is?
No,
But if I draw it,
I would definitely recognize it.
thank you. You see where the problem now is?
Yes.
We are using symbols for convenience as the shortest way of passing information. But the
Yes.
assumption is that you understand what the words stand for.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't understand what the words stand for, what should you look for?
The
What they
actual.
represent
Yes.
in nature.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
Again,
Exactly.
I'm trying to lead to the idea of going back to the source as a
Yes.
way of starting to understand something. You'll be amazed if you just flash through, go through, pictures of hieroglyphics
Mm.
and just flip. You see people cutting grain,
Mhm.
doing something and all that. You start to actually understand what they're doing.
Yeah.
You may not understand what the writer was saying, but
Yes.
you can actually see because you are reading from nature. They are depicting natural things. And I don't think you'll be very wrong to understand what is going on or what was going on those days. If somebody's fishing, you know exactly what fishing is all about.
Yes. Yes. And if I see a
If
picture of
somebody's
people fishing,
plowing,
yeah. No,
so I would say go back to that.
that is very interesting. Now, coming to spirituality in terms of, I think you touched on it briefly when I kind of brought in the originator, what we'd call umveli ngangi, etc. Now, in terms of appealing to something as, I don't know whether it's the right way to say mysterious, is that how did Africans go about it? And did they, obviously you mentioned, you did acknowledge that they knew that there was something higher than than our
themselves.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Would you have anything to say about that, maybe?
Okay, let me put it this way. Maybe I'll go back, but maybe let's wind just a little bit. I know we're always fighting time, but think of it this way. This is where I like the word Ubuntu. You see, in Shona, they would say unu, right? If you met me and I behaved a certain way, the chances are in a negative way, you say, that one is not a person. It's an animal. Yes. At worst, you say, no, Lou is a dog because I behave like a dog, isn't it? Right? Now, when we talk of spirituality from the European point of view, you see, to me, they are talking of a totally different thing. If you say to me spirituality, I'll say, no, spirituality is how you live your life, how you understand your life. So they're not wrong when they talk of spirituality the way they talk of it. But to me, it's having that humanity in you. That to me is
spirituality.
The equivalent is spirituality. It's your life and how you relate to the people around you. And if it is good relation, then you're living a spiritual life. It's a practice. It's not theorizing, writing theses, ideologies and all
Mm.
that. No, we are not ideological people the way if I'm doing a thesis and putting an idea. Ideologies to me are just a way of analyzing human reality, and they are very narrow.
Ideologies, and that covers doctrines as well, I assume.
Whatever it is, are simply trying to look at human life and experience from a particular angle. That to me, because those are ideas, isn't
Yes.
it? So that to me, that is ideology.
Thank you very much, Louis. I think we've covered just over an hour now. I don't know whether you've got other commitments. I know we covered a lot. And my last question, I think, is when is Africa going to recover the Dendera Zodiac?
Well, let's put it this way. If you can't recover it physically, it's in your mind and no one can take it away. That's the beauty of that. The artifacts are it's symbolism.
Yes.
I'm not saying don't fight for it, no, because when you get it, it becomes a tangible thing.
Yes.
And the generations that come after us can touch it.
Yes.
Actually, before we close,
yes.
Have you looked at the Zimbabwe bird?
Yes, I have. I have.
Properly.
I think I have.
Is
I
it
would
a
like to
bird,
believe.
or it's a human body with the head of a bird and wings of a bird? Look at the legs.
Yes.
Those are not legs or feet of a bird.
You'd say that human feet?
I'm just saying, just look at them.
Yeah.
Whoever is interested,
I'll look closer
have
next
a
time.
good look at them.
I'll look closer
and
next
tell
time. Obviously,
me,
there's some symbolism there.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you very much, Louis. I'm sure you'll be coming back to share your thoughts and wisdom again in different areas. I think this was, just as we had discussed, a starting point to open certain discussions. And I hope viewers find it an enriching discussion that you put forward. And I wish to thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate you for the wisdom and knowledge shared there. Thank you so much, Louis.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. But let's say this. Wisdom is when you practice what you know.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
I
Louis.
can practice whatever it is that I've told people. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And you have a good day.
You too. Thank you
Okay,
very
then, Louis.
much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Sure.